Good morning, and this is Sunrise. I'm Ayo Makinde welcoming you. Don't worry, I'm not alone this morning. It just happens that I'm starting alone this time. Just so happens. So it's not, particularly anything designed, but we all woke up to, got the information yesterday that the Nigerian Army announced the burial arrangement for the late Chief of Army Staff and 6 other people who died in a plane crash. The information came from the Director of Army Public Relations, Mohammed Yerima, who said the event would commence at the National Mosque and National Christian Center, Abuja, at 10 a.m. today. It was very, very heart-wrenching to hear that people, especially the Chief of Army Staff, who's just recently been put in office, and along with some others. And of course, you can see the images of that occurrence. That's the plane crash, the site of the plane crash, being the fire being put out there. Of course, you see that's some amateur video there, and some others, also looking at how things can be there, and it's just it's very, very heavy on many people's hearts. One of the people who died was said to have just recently gotten married, I think about 3 months ago. So how the family, the entire family is taking that, it is something most certainly disturbing. Alera, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm here. This is all so sad. It's more compelling for us because of the pledge that he made when he took office. And a lot of people were very hopeful that he was going to be able to do something about our situation because he sounded so genuine about it. It's so sad when we lose lives like this. I mean, Boko Haram is running our soldiers into the ground every day, and then this happens. Loss of more, of our armed forces. It's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. Our condolences to the families and to the forces, the loss of such senior officers,
I don't even know where to begin, And I think this kind of thing, the brevity of life should be a constant lesson for everyone as to why we need to do the best we can while, we're on this side of the divide, so to speak.
So, we mouth it all the time. When these things happen, we are sober for just a minute, and the next minute we're back to our bad ways.
Like it never happened the first time. So the decisions we talked about before, you're talking about, a decision that he made, a pledge he made, and even that very bold and courageous declaration he made before the troops, that we needed to stamp out these criminals and all of that. It's just something. So on the one hand, we talk about these, and then these kinds of things happen to us, and then we just need to pay attention to certain things. So we need to always bear in mind the brevity of life and how we will be remembered when we are gone.
Yes.
It brings to mind what kind of what do we say about you when you are no longer governor?
When you're gone.
When you're no longer governor, when you're no longer a commissioner, you're no longer a member of parliament, the decisions you made before you left, and how it's reverberated on the lives of people. Well, tough calls have to be made. Tough decisions have to be made. But what are the palliatives, so to speak? What are the cushioning that's released for people? Because when you hear that the Nigerian governors, for instance, have given their backing to the full deregulation of the downstream sector, the question you're asking is, first of all, was it with the thoughts of the people. I don't even know where to begin with that.
That's where my mind went when you said, what are people going to say about you when you're no longer in office? And imagine now people waking up to hear that it is the governors who are saying federal government should increase the price of fuel. And the federal government has rejected it, at least for now. I mean, the governors are closer to the people than the federal government. And the local government is even closer to the people. So they are the ones who see what the people are going through. And they know that right now, all is not well. People are struggling to survive. Some people can only afford to eat once a day. And the important thing about the price of fuel is that you take it up by 1 naira and it affects every aspect of our lives. So if you start selling petrol at 385 naira per liter,
or 408 in some cases.
How will the man who earns 30,000 naira get to work? I mean, you're screaming corruption now? Well, corruption is going to be walking on 2 legs staring at you then, because everybody is going to have to survive one way or another. Beg, borrow, steal, kill. You know, our situation will certainly get worse should that happen.
But that's why I'm talking about the palliatives. What are the other economic considerations that have been made?
But government doesn't have any money.
I mean, if there are policies that will jumpstart activities, jumpstart economic activities, for instance, every economist we've had to speak with has said that we are more of a consuming nation than a producing nation.
Without a doubt.
Which we have tremendous potential to do. I saw a video, I don't know if you saw it as well, of a community in Ilorin where the community, the entire area went troops to the house of, I think, the emir or something, the palace, and they were just shouting,
we're hungry.
Everybody is hungry, This morning, I happened on Twitter, I rarely do it, I just happened, just scrolling, and I stumbled on a particular thread that was very, very touching. And I felt like, putting out word as well, which is, they were saying, if you have some money to give someone, give it. If you need money, drop your account details here. Let's see what we can do to help each other. So, and I saw both. One, people are asking for money, dropping their account numbers and
the other, people are giving.
People are giving.
No matter how small.
No matter how small.
Yeah.
So will that happen in that kind of regime that you're talking about? I don't know. I don't know. Definitely will take menu off the table of many. Oh, talking about menu.
Yes, we're going to start by looking at the state of the polity. It looks like we talk about that every week now, and we shall be for a long time to come, it seems.
And then there's this device management system. You remember that policy put out by, that announcement by the NCC that we need to know your IMEI number, the one on your phone. What's it about? More later.
Well, I think NCC has come out and said that, no, it's not compulsory. It's not compulsory. Oh, anyway, then from there we'll be looking at it. We'll keep our eye on the crypto dip. What is all that? All that hassle about cryptocurrencies and all that? There was a sudden dip in the course of this week. We'll be looking at that.
And some are saying it's the best time to buy. Then International Day of Biodiversity. Wondering what that is about?
Stay with us.
Yeah.
And we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And all I can say to you is that she's a she.
You only know when she's a she.
She's not a she.
I'm gonna protest, but not today. Not today.
So you can be part of the program. Our Twitter handles will be showing on the screen very soon. You can be part of our conversation today. So get whatever it is that makes you comfortable and spend the next 3 hours odd with us on Sunrise. Thank you for joining us this morning. Well, let's start by looking at the state of the polity. At the beginning of the week, the NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, embarked on a strike and protest in Kaduna State over the plan by the state government, which it did implement, to sack civil servants in the state. This sparked up some pandemonium because the state government sacked nurses below grade level 14 for embarking on the strike in solidarity with the NLC, as well as declared the NLC president wanted. I'm sure you witnessed in the course of the week all that drama that was going on when the president said, the governor came to where we were protesting and I was looking at him, and all that. Anyway, that is just one of the things we're going to be looking at today concerning the state of our polity. And to help us.
I think we should also include the latest, which is the conversation. It should be a conversation between the Southern governors and the AGF. It's a conversation.
Yeah, that's coming as well. That's coming.
I'm just saying.
That's backed off a lot of brouhaha in the course of the week as well. Well, to help us look at these two and some other issues, it's my pleasure to welcome a legal practitioner who's with us here in the studio in Lagos, Mr. John Oloyede. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
And joining us virtually, we have the Chairman, National Conscience Party, Mr. Yunusa Tanko. Good morning, Mr.
Good
Tanko.
Morning. Good morning.
And we also have the founder, Nigeria First Initiative, Ezekiel Nya Etuk. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me begin with Mr. Oloyede, if I may. The strike has been called off. So what do you think about all that drama that was going on? Mr. Waba being declared wanted, the protest being described as sabotage.
Well, we're talking about the state of the polity, and many Nigerians now describe the Nigerian situation as a season film. I mean, season 1, season 2, we keep moving from one to the other. It's quite unfortunate that governance is now all drama and no action. Kaduna State, incidentally, is one state that should be, that used to be a melting pot for the Nigerian state. Very accommodating, very peaceful, very clean, everything you wanted in a good environment used to be there in Kaduna and Kano for every Nigerian. It was a mini Nigeria. But now you have a situation, I mean, it would be out of place to just isolate Kaduna and say, oh, Kaduna has been a big letdown. It is a reflection of what is happening in every part of Nigeria, albeit it's a bit more stringent out there because of the problem of terrorists, kidnappers, and all whatnot going on out there. Now, going specifically, the strike action and all that, the governor, I mean, to my mind, in my own thinking, went too far when he declared the president of Nigerian Labour Congress wanted for declaring a strike. In the first instance, how do you sack a group of workers? You just sack them unilaterally. You didn't declare redundancy. You didn't talk about how these workers are going to be, or how they have been retrained, how they are going to be accommodated, how their entitlements are going to be paid. You just sacked them in one fell swoop. And then the labor union, of course, the labor union has not, been with Nigerians in our cries all over the years, recently. But then, the labor union did what it should do in any country by declaring a strike. And when it declared a strike, it was doing that in consonance with the law. They announced it. They said it's going to be a warning strike, that you can't just sack people like that. There are things you have to do. You have to engage labor. You have to engage the people involved. You didn't do all that. And because they did what they should do, unionism, fighting for the rights of workers, you said you are declaring the president wanted, for the president of NLC wanted, for is it for breach of peace? Because
Economic sabotage.
economic sabotage. That's what he said. Now, who is sabotaging which economy? I mean, if things work properly in Nigeria, if indeed workers actually work and earn their pay, how do you explain a situation where somebody will just sack thousands of workers and the state will still be running, particularly the health sector? Now, how do you come to terms with a situation where, looking at the justice system, the judiciary has been comatose for over 2 months, about 2 months now, and life goes on. We're living.
Does this suggest that maybe the civil service in that state was already overbloated? For him to be able to do away with so many.
Now, that is the position of the governor. You remember last year or year before, some people were sacked because he said the civil service was overbloated. He said that. He conducted tests and so many people failed and he laid off many. Now, it simply means, of course, we're living the times. We all now know COVID-19 has shown that quite a number of departments are actually overbloated, because the things we used to have everybody around in offices doing next to nothing, we now see that they can be done with just two persons can actually run a branch of a bank.
Well, that's perhaps taking that's another department of that conversation.
Yeah.
But let's do on the activity or what the governor did, for instance. Like, perhaps there is, you are a legal practitioner, not a politician. Yeah. So let's talk to the politician, Dr. Tanko. Maybe there are some perspectives that people don't understand about what exactly happened in Kaduna State. You wanna? I'm pretty sure you have a perspective, Dr. Tanko.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Permit me to condole the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the people of Kaduna in particular for the demise of the Chief of Army Staff, General Tairu, who lost his life in a very fatal accident yesterday. It was a very sad event, especially now that we are trying to continue this fight against this insurgent, and then we were hit with that situation yesterday. May his soul rest in peace. The truth about it is that there's a lot of things going on with regard to playing politics with the lives of the common man, especially the downtrodden. What happened in Kaduna some couple of days ago was a show of shame. And then we thought for us, a governor like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who have been in the forefront of fighting for the interests of the people at a point in time. You remember with nostalgia the kind of desperate position he took as regard to the last government and how they handled issues, what his positions were. And when he came into governance, we were very, very happy, and that we were having somebody who have shown classical way of governance, especially from his actions in the FCT, apart from, of course, the way in which he handled
Dr. Tanko,
properties of individuals. Yeah.
Just 1 second. Is this suggesting that you are disappointed the way things are going now? I'll let you answer that one when we return from this break. Thank you for staying with us. Yes, Dr. Tanko, so having, laid that background, I'm just wondering, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're a little disappointed in the way things have gone so far. Yes,
especially in the human capital development, which concerns the workers and other individuals. You could recall very well, Nigeria, as rightly postulated, Kaduna is a hub of industrial development, especially in Kakuri, where you have the textile and all of them are grounded. And then the people are actually hoping that with a kind of a highly intellectual person like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, which of course we must attest to the fact that in the last few years, if you have been to Kaduna for like some years ago, if you come to Kaduna, you find it difficult to understand because Kaduna has really transformed in terms of development and roads and all. Malam has tried to make it look semi-Abuja in that regard. But in terms of that of human capital development, you may want to question some of the situations that are happening. And in fact, particularly for me, I was expecting a more a kind of a very systematic way of dealing with the issues of workers when it comes to the issue of sacking. We weren't expecting that type of sacking of workers and without due process of following the due process and making sure that the workers understand and what alternative is being provided. Already the states and especially the larger part of the north has been crying for a lot of issue of hunger, lack of work and productive activities and all. Now for you to plunge that particular people into that particular same situation, coming from the fact that the change mantra in which you come with was on the hope that Nigerians will have, actually in Kaduna, will have a new change of life where most of those particular work, creative working environment will have been created. Most likely, you will see those textile companies coming back into life, new industries being built, and then that will accommodate instead of to create more jobs rather than sacking the workers, and that creates a lot of pain. And don't forget the fact that, and the process of this infrastructural development, a lot of homes were being kind of destroyed, although some payments are being made, but the process is quite cumbersome. And the people are feeling this pain as regard to how their life will be. Then there's no process as regard to how you now disengage them, and then you expect people to keep quiet. Very truly, it is disappointing in that regard. We are expecting more in the way in which such situation could have been handled. And I know he has the capacity to handle it in such a way where the people will not feel the pain and the pang. But unfortunately, they failed to react appropriately. And then it now resulted into the manner in which you approach the people, the way you speak to the people. When you are looking for their vote, you plead with them. You ask for their vote. You tell them that you are going to do A, B, C, D. You didn't tell them that you are going to destroy their homes. You didn't tell them you are going to sack them. And even when you want to sack them, you are going to explain to them how or why that particular sacking will come about.
So,
and then here you are now after winning elections. The mantra changed.
So,
and then
Dr.
the
Tanko,
manner in which you talk to them with disdain.
So for you, the problem is not the activity or the action. The problem is the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the process has a problem, because I'm trying to read from both sides of the aisle. The government is saying that they're needing money and how they are going to go about their infrastructure and development and all, and then they are thinking that the civil service is overbloated. And when some people are now saying that probably there's a way in which virtually a lot of things can be done, but we shouldn't forget that at a point in time, the major way of creating jobs for Nigerian people is the civil service. And the civil service was the only way in which jobs were being created and giving opportunity for people to work and all, to earn a living. More or less like becoming, apart from the fact that they perform, some of them perform their duty, it became a kind of employment way in which people can be engaged at a point in time.
You
If
know
there's
what?
if there's a reason why
For some
that
people, yeah, Dr. Tanko, for some people, that one would be that might not be the complete position, because some would say that the job of government is not necessarily to provide employment, but to provide an enabling environment for jobs to be created by businesses. Yeah, but let me take this also to Mr. Yaito. There are those who have said, because there are so many things to cover, in this short conversation we're gonna have. But there are those who have also said that what happened in Kaduna State is just a microcosm of what is likely to happen in other states of the federation, because as many people believe, the governors don't have so much money anymore. FAC allocation is on the low, increasingly, and NNPC is already saying, guys, let's watch it. The debate over fuel deregulation of the downstream sector is going to suck more money, so to speak, from people's hands. Tax, I don't know. So on the one hand, it will seem like the governors have a job of work on their hands. On the other hand, the people have a problem really balancing out the thinking of governors or government at various levels.
Yeah. Number one, thanks for having me. And number two, let me join my brother Tanko to express our condolences to all Nigerians on what is already described concerning the death of the Chief of Army Staff and the other 10 or so people. That said, I am concerned that we really don't understand what government and governance is all about. To me, government is the management of the resources of the people in the larger interest of the people. What that means that you must bring the most competent managers into it. Number two, I see the civil servants as engineers and the politicians as the crew in an aircraft. To that extent, you can't leave the recruitment of engineers to just provision of employment for the boys. It can't be. You need to have people who realize they have an extremely strategic role to play. The civil servants, the moment that they are not together, they are going to create an aircraft that even the best pilot will not be able to handle it. If we have that mindset and mentality, then we'll see the civil service as an extremely important, delicate, and crucial, institution, where when you come in as the crew, the pilot, you need to treat your engineers with all respect. You need to give them all their due remunerations. You need to go ahead to inspire them to do the extra checks that they don't necessarily have to do just to ensure safety. When we have this mindset, then you realize that you cannot just bring people in and make the civil service, employment generation institute or institution. And on the other hand, you cannot, as the manager of the process, in any way treat them in any way that will make them feel disenfranchised. That said, and thirdly, we must be careful to recruit competent pilots who realize that the piloting affair is a very serious business and not an enterprise where you go there because you make several hours, you are going to be giving so much money. No, you realize that the life of the nation, of the state, of the people is in your hands. So you must be with all your senses. The first problem that we have is that we've recruited a lot of incompetent crew, who are there not to pilot the affairs, but are attracted by the paraphernalia of the office. Oh, I'm a pilot, people look up to me and things like that. So we've recruited the wrong crew. Secondly, when you look at the good ones that have a good head, what Mr. Obong El Rufai tried to do is very good, extremely good. How we try to get about it is very bad, almost extremely bad. So when we have a meeting point, the civil service have to agree that we cannot spend 90% of the resources on about 3% of the people. Now that will be okay. If that 90% will now be able to bring up something else that even when you have 10, 15%, it will be able to do the work and do it extremely well. That civil service is not giving us that at all. And that problem is going to be faced by every government. And for somebody who's wanted to be a governor before, and probably may yet want again, depending on what God says, you have to really sit down and interrogate the governance process to look at the fundamentals. How do we handle the civil service such that it becomes a very professionalized service, who are paid so well that they are inspired to do the work? The moment the engineers do a fantastic work, it makes the job of the pilot much easier. So we really need to come down and, as Nigerians, know that what is happening in Kaduna is just doing press up. The bigger version, the real version, is coming to visit us. The reason is that
Kaduna is lucky in a sense to have a man. He might be rational sometimes by my own thinking, but he's a man that I believe has potentials to be one of the best governors because he is target driven, he is focused, he has understandings, but he just might not have the wisdom. So he needs to have a group of elders, nationalists from Kaduna State, whom he relates with from time to time, who will tell him all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. This thing you want to do is very good, but think of this way of doing it. And I think that every state needs to have an orientation agency that is able to network and communicate with the people, the policies of government before they come up, so that you are able to express what you want to do, get the buy-in of the people. You are not a monarch, you are not the king, you are not the lord of the people. You are the chief servant of the people. And wisdom demands that you respect the people that gave you the job. This issue of thinking Mr. President is above all, a governor is above all, is an aberration. They are our workers, they are our boys. We pay their salary. The food they eat is from the people. So they must find themselves to be accountable to the people. And they should not sit on the high horse and look down on the people. This balance needs to be created.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ezekiel. Now, we have to manage our time, and we have so much ground to cover. I don't know how much of it we're going to be able to cover. So now that you've all had your bits about what's happening in Kaduna State, let's talk about what the southern governors said last week and the reaction of the Attorney General of the Federation. To some people, in comparing herders to spare parts dealers, he was comparing two totally dissimilar things. Because the spare parts dealers do not rent shops and not pay for them. They do not go around killing people. They do not kidnap. They do not,
and they are not nomadic.
The whole, the basis for comparison seems to be non-existent. And the southern governors have come out and said they're not going back on what they have said.
Yes. It's quite unfortunate the statement made by the Attorney General of the Federation. It is the most elementary part of legal education to say that, when it comes to issues of land, that, in Nigeria today, we have what we call the Land Use Act. And the governors of each state are the trustees of the land for the benefit of the people within the geographical area that they govern. So it's out of place for a whole Attorney General of the Federation, the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, to suggest that, there is somewhere section, I think he referred to section 41 of the Constitution, and he talked about freedom of expression, for anybody to just move from one place to the other in the name of grazing. And he says, except there is constitutional amendment, the governors can do nothing. That is not the law.
At the risk of sounding obtuse,
yes,
the Constitution says that there's freedom of movement for persons.
For persons.
Does it also guarantee the freedom of movement for cows? For cattle?
No, nothing like that.
In any form?
You have freedom to own property. Now, as you have the freedom, you must take care of that property by doing the necessary things. That is when the analogy of the spare parts sellers, dealers, and the cattle rearers, that's where they don't work. Because the spare parts dealers, wherever they are, they pay for space.
Yes.
They pay taxes. But you have cattle rearers walking from one state to the other, entering into people's farms. Now, there is something in law relating to trespass. They say, your rights end at the tip of my nose.
Where my rights begin.
Yes, where my rights begin. You can swing your arm, but the moment your arm hits my nose, that your freedom of movement ends, and you are in trouble. Now, when the Attorney General of the Federation talked about amending the Constitution, first of all, regarding this issue of cattle rearing, cattle grazing, and open grazing, I don't see any need for constitutional amendment, because the Constitution already provides for who is in charge of land. And if you want to take land from a state for any kind of business, or take it from an individual, there are processes to follow. Once you follow that process, the issue of amending the constitution does not arise. And if there's going to be amendment of the constitution, why now? Why are you talking of amending constitution simply because of cattle?
Forgive me, Mr. Lady.
Yes.
I remember. Please help me remember which particular law it is where it says that if your cattle,
Yeah.
trespasses on my property,
Yes.
you commit a crime.
Yes, that you see, there's something we call the rule in Relands and Fletcher. It's part of what we inherited. It simply means that if I am in my property, anything, it's not cattle, anything, your neighbor here, the neighbor to channels, if they have gas or water and they don't contain it properly and it escapes onto my land, that rule says that you are going to be responsible by necessary implication for whatever damage what has escaped from your land has caused on my land.
Yeah.
Now, linking that to cattle grazing, you can bring your cattle anywhere. Here, we are talking of reality. These animals come onto farmlands and they eat up everything.
Crops.
Now, the rule is very clear. In the realm of private property law, the farmers have every right to sue. They have every right to distrain. There's something we call distraining, meaning to impound the cattle and sell it off to realize, to take care of the damages that have been inflicted on them. But I don't, yes.
I'm going to ask you a question when we return from this break, which is about, how do the laws factor in our cultures, our traditions, our ways of life? Do the laws in any way, put that into consideration? Perhaps that's another bone of contention, but after we return from this break. Well, thanks for staying with us. It's still Sunrise. Yes, Mr. Loyede, it would seem like some laws, our laws are clear, cut and dry. This is the offense, this is the consequence. But most of the time, it would seem like, in the example that we're giving, for instance, that there are some laws that don't seem to consider our sentiments, our affiliations, our cultures, traditions, and all those things. Because, there is also that belief in some quarters that it is the nature of, herders to be nomadic. And I don't think that the laws sometimes factor that in.
Well, you see, the thing about law, is for, like we say, one of the basic definitions of law is that it's an instrument of social engineering. So that there won't be friction, there are laws. Because the culture of the Fulani man can never be the same as the culture of the Yoruba man. And so, if you are coming into my domain as a Yoruba man and you are a Fulani man, I have my culture, I'm on my land. Your culture cannot suddenly supersede, take precedence over my own. Talking in the realm of culture. So, but in order to reduce to the barest minimum the friction that can occur when there is a mix of cultures, that's why we have laws that is supposed to be general in nature. So when you come down to my domain, there is a law which is a standard that human beings all over the world are supposed to, be in tune with. When you come to, for instance, in Yoruba land, we have, let me bring it to the level of Proverbs. They say, "Mafokomi dano ijokon lomo." You don't use my farmland as path. If you stop using my farmland as pathway, it will end one day.
In other words, you've been doing it.
You've been doing it. The day it will end, I'm not going to say it with words of mouth. I probably will come with a cutlass. And that's the point we have gotten to now. The Fulanis have been with Yorubas. They have been with Igbos on their lands over the centuries.
Yeah.
We didn't have this much friction. Suddenly, why are we having friction? One, the influx of Fulanis has increased. Cattle rearers, because there is desertification up north. The desertification up north has caused a larger number of them coming down south to graze. Now, the Yorubas are predominantly farmers. When the Fulanis used to come before, they come with cattle to be sold, not to graze. Now, when you begin to now, you cannot, we are not, like she said, we are now in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot be we cannot be going back. Okay. When we used to have Fulanis mixed with us, rare cattle, they brought them for sale to be killed and eaten. But what they are now doing has gone beyond that. And you cannot continue to apply culture sentiment when there is law. Okay. The law must be supreme.
Okay. Dr. Tanko, some have said that indeed this is the 21st century and people are enhancing their production and things like that, making their businesses better with the use of technology and all kinds of devices. So is it not time for us to begin to look for modern solutions to this problem that we have? I mean, look at Netherlands, for instance. They are an agricultural country. So, of course, they're moving cattle up and down, but we don't see their cattle on the streets of Amsterdam, for instance, or Rotterdam.
Exactly. I subscribe to that. And that is why we should be mindful of our utterances as leaders, especially when we are trying to justify a position. Just like as was already positioned, the Attorney General statement trying to come an analogy between the headers and the spare part dealers in the South may send a wrong signal. But what, in a way, is trying to also say is this particular movement that we have these challenges of probably saying ethnic profiling. People will be thinking that because the headers are Fulanis, of course, they are being hindered from their constitutional right as regard to movement, even though some are saying that you move. I have that people say, okay, when you move with your property, so you can also protect your property as well. But the truth about it is that even the position of the southern governors, too, will have sent a wrong signal to some of our problems in the north. Because what we are saying as leaders is that when you make position of this, you have been making, okay, fine. We suffer the same problems in the north too. I've been a victim as regard to cattle coming into my farm and grazing unlawfully. You understand? So it's not as if probably it's predominant in the south. So what we would have expected, just like as you asked the question, is that provide solution. Let's say, fine, we will not allow this particular grazing because it's causing a lot of problem in the particular areas of our domain. You can't come into my farm and then eat my crops and all. No. But what we will do is that as governors and as Nigerians, we are thinking that this is a business, a personal business. We are providing a particular piece of land, even though some people will kick against it, that they are giving their lands to some people. No, this is a business entity. The government has given land to those who want to run business. If you want to have your cattle in that domain, you must go into this particular area and you must pay this particular fine and particular fee so that you can maintain your cattle and possibly graze in that particular area. That is if it has to come. That is providing an alternative. That will show that all of us are thinking in a different direction. Now, I give you a simple example of what happened in Jigawa State. I get pain because over the years, we have a particular place in Jigawa there that is predominantly for cattle sales, and it's been there in hundreds of years, and the same place remains the way it is. That is a huge way in making money. Only if the governor can really get into it. You can build abattoir in this particular area, dairy product. You can build places where they can sell hides and skins. Even the horns of the cattle is money. So to me, it's about the northern governors now taking reward. Which I make this position known in a program in Kano State, my state, where I was asked to present a statement on it. And I was happy that the governor of a big planning header should come home, come back to the north. We have places for you. Let us now turn those particular places into a business-making machine where money can be made, just like other countries who depend on it. One of our brothers,
yeah, Dr. Tanko,
talking about cattle money.
Yeah, one of the concerns that a number of people have had over this particular issue is every governor in Nigeria has already said that open grazing is no longer the way to go. It was last year, I think, that the northern governors themselves all came together and say, open grazing is outdated, it is unsustainable, and we should find another alternative altogether. And it was about the same last year that the National Livestock Transformation Plan came up. And, you know, the federal government has said every state that is interested should sign up. Part of what the southern governors have also said in an interview with us, you know, we hosted the governor of Ondo State who said they are also going to go to, you know, have this conversation further with the federal government. So, Mr. Yetok, let me ask you this. Since all the governors in Nigeria have said open grazing is outdated, one of the questions that I've been asking over and over again is that we had more than 400 grazing reserves in the north that have all either gone comatose or not, you know, there any longer. And what the governor of Ondo State said was that those grazing reserves, even in Ondo State, in Oyo State, the Fashola farm, for instance, were all abandoned. And the thinking now is everyone should go back to the farm so that we can do better with it. So the question that I'd like to put to you now is, how do you expect governments at the federal and state levels should go about this matter, especially of livestock? It's a 30 trillion naira business, according to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. What is stopping us from looking at the economic value as opposed to the sentimental value?
Thanks again. Wonderful question. I will always come to where I always start. We need to understand that governance is very serious business that should be limited to people who understand why they get into the office and what is expected of them. That's number one. Within that context, if I was a governor, the first thing I'll ask myself is that this problem presents an opportunity. Does that opportunity fit into my sphere of influence? In Akwa Ibom, my first answer would be no. The reason is that the whole of Akwa Ibom is probably the size of one or two local governments in a place like Niger State. We're a very small state, very small. So my concentration will not be that of cattle rearing. If I'm to do that, I have to do a very specialized form of it that is going to be real high yield and highly mechanized and everything. So I will not be too much in a hurry to fit into that program. But there are other states that have humongous amount of land. What they need to do, secondly, is let the federal government, forget about all these livestock transformation programs and things like that, where the people don't really believe. It's like, look, you want to bring Ruga back the back door. Let the central bank call specialists and put up these incentives of people who want to get into cattle rearing business. Okay? This is not the issue of, oh, it is our trade, our tradition. No. It's just like spare parts. Not only Igbos, but the question is, can you get into the spare parts business? One or two Yoruba people are doing spare parts, and I lived in Lagos for about 30 years. I can tell you that. But you know that they don't really have the skills, the Igbos predominantly. So why don't we just come together as a nation and say this business should be encouraged? Federal government, all the governors say, take some money from us because we are a people, we are a nation. These are our brothers and sisters. Take some money from us, get a policy. Let's get to Sambisa Forest. That forest that has been such a nightmare to us, let us, those stones, turn them into stepping stones. If we are honest, if we are sincere, enter Sambisa Forest. Central bank governor, federal government, the governors forum, put some infrastructure, first-class facilities in that Sambisa Forest. By so doing, you don't go fighting for land when we have a large amount of land, unless, of course, you know something that I don't know. Secondly, you know, we have relative peace in the South. What people don't know is that we, the leaders and elders in the South, when there were those militant problems and everything, there was a very, very large, understandable amount of discontentment by the people who were fishermen. They said the oil is spoiling. We told them, look, this oil exploration is not going to be something that's going to come pass easily. You know, I know you've been fishermen all your lives, but we have a problem. Can we just think in terms of alternate trade you can get into? That's why we're able to talk to our people to now start coming, you know, leaving the coastlands to come into land and try to see to what extent they could get into farming, get into other forms of trade and everything. We, the elders of the Niger Delta, did this without people knowing. And this narrative is not always brought out. I think that our Fulani sisters and brothers need to call their people and talk to them that, look, we can't be seen as a problem of the nation. We have a problem, the certification, the climate change and everything, but we cannot now say, let's go into people's farms. It doesn't make sense. I will be one of those from the south that will be one of their cheerleaders, one of those that will carry the placard, one of those that will go round the nooks and crannies and talk to governors, to bring that special provision so that these people are settled. And let me end on this note. You see, when you see it coming and you pretend it's not coming, when it comes, you'll have no one but yourselves to blame. And I feel really pained about the Fulanis of Nigeria. These people are have been the most trustworthy people, and I can tell you that with empirical evidence. Everybody wants Malam to be in their gates. These are Fulanis. These people are very honest, they are very trustworthy, they are very gentle, they are very kind, they've been with us for ages. And now, they are becoming the butt of all this, what's going on, because a group of Fulanis that are militant, that take no prisoners, that are conscienceless, they are rapists, they are murderers, have come in and even conquered them, the Nigerian Fulanis. And then they've turned around to stigmatize all the Fulanis. And you think it's okay because the president is a Fulani. For goodness sake, Mr. President is not going to be a Fulani all his life, or he's not going to be a president all his life. And when he leaves office, how is Nigerians going to network with their Fulani brother? This profiling, and that is not okay by me. It's not okay because the Fulanis of Nigeria expression are being disenfranchised.
Okay, thank you very much, Ezekiel. Well, I'll just take these two tweets quickly before we close. Most states in Nigeria will soon be bankrupt if they don't downsize their bloated, unproductive civil service. There should be redundancy packages in place for all workers who are disengaged. And Festus Akimboyewa says, I have seen herdsmen carrying AK-47s, but I have never seen any spare parts dealer carrying AK-47. So the two are incomparable.
Or any gun at all. I haven't seen one.
Any gun of any shape or form. Thank you very much. Let me start with our virtual guests. Ezekiel Inya Etuk, founder, Nigeria First Initiative. Dr. Yunusa Tanko, chairman, National Conscience Party. And we had in the studio Mr. John Oloyede, a legal practitioner. Thank you very much for coming to share your insights with us on this very important issue. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Make sure you join us.